What's up, fam? Today we're going to be doing another installment in our Centralized Spotlight series. The focus of today's video is to debunk some illogical or nonlinear thought processes that I see that are pretty pervasive within the PLO community. Just to expectation manage, this video is not going to be super advanced. It's going to be mostly attuned to the beginner to low-level intermediate players. That doesn't mean that anyone can't get value from this video, but I do want you to go into it with an open mind, especially if what I'm talking about is aligned with your thought process. I think it's really important to continuously grow the way you think about the game of poker, and this video has helped to course correct you if you're approaching the game in ways that, in my opinion, aren't effective in 2020. The first concept that I want to talk about today is a relic from the old No Limit Hold'em days. I think that almost everyone that's watching this video at one point in time, either through poker commentary, at the table, or having conversations with people, will have either used or heard the phrase of having the initiative. This is actually a concept that I think A.E. Jones debunked, I don't even know how long ago, like a decade ago, but I still see it being used in today's games. It is especially bad in Pot Limit Omaha. And the reason being is that the way that you should think about whether or not you should bet and when you should bet is determined on a lot of things. But one of them is not the initiative. And so I think that a good thing to talk about is generally what should we be thinking about when we're trying to determine whether or not to bet. So generally speaking, we determine our betting frequencies given range interactions on different board textures. So if we have a range advantage, then we're allowed to bet at some frequency. The reason why donk betting or leading wasn't very prevalent in No Limit Hold'em was because, for example, the out of position player, they didn't often have a range advantage on a lot of boards, or they didn't have a range advantage that was substantial enough to offset their positional disadvantage. In Pot Limit Omaha, that just isn't true. A great example of this would be if the button raises and then the small blind flats. The small blind's actually going to have a relatively strong range relative to the button. And so they're actually going to be able to play leads on a non-trivial amount of board textures. We need to redefine the way we approach thinking about betting. And to kind of use these archaic or kind of catchphrase methodologies to determine whether or not you should bet doesn't make any sense. You need to realign your thought process with a modern game theory approved structure to determine whether or not you should be betting. We go over the different situations about leading a lot in this course. Chris's turn series is phenomenal for determining whether or not you want to have a leading range or when to build a leading range or how to build a leading range. And so if you haven't already looked at that, I highly recommend going and giving it a check, specifically because not only will it teach you when you're supposed to lead, but how you're supposed to be thinking about it. This video is a little taste about some of the ways you can structure a leading range, but there's a lot of detail and finesse that goes into it. And so it's your job as an active learner of the game to kind of discard this archaic way of thinking and restructure your thought process to include leading ranges in spots where it makes sense.